Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Let's talk about the replace function in Microsoft SQL Server. So what does the replace function do? Well, it replaces things. There you go. Boom. We're done. End of the video. Of course not. I mean, it does replace things, but let's talk about it. So let's look at like Microsoft's official kind of definition, right? Or at least their official syntax. String expression is the string that you want to replace something in. The string expression to replace is what you want to replace in the string expression, and the string expression replacement is what you want to use as a replacement. I know it gets confusing, but we'll make it look real simple. I'm not even going to select from a table. I'm going to straight up just write a direct statement, right? Select, replace, and then what string do I want to replace? I'm just going to say, I am bad. If I could type, I am bad. I am bad. What do you want to replace? Let's replace bad with good. Because if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s like me, you know, bad is good. That boy is bad. So we execute that query using the execute button or F5 like I just did. And you can see I am good. And let me just real quick, let's, so we have like a comparison. Let's up here, let's just type in that same thing, right? I can't, I am bad. So that way we can see both, right? So I am bad, I am good. So what happened? We fed the string I am bad to the replace function. We replaced bad with good. Boom. Now, of course, many times you will not be using a literal string value like this. You will use a column value or be selecting something from a table. But this should at least give you the gist of how it works. Now, it's not limited to just replacing like one word. You can replace a very long string if you need to. So just for fun, we'll just say I am bad here. So I'm saying I want to replace this entire string, and we'll say you are good. There you go. Down here, you are good instead of I am bad. Now let's look at a little more real world example that you might get. I'm going to throw this weird looking phone number string in here. Okay. And now I've purposely made this a little obtuse, right? But if you have worked in IT or SQL Server or development, programming, anything like that for any amount of time, or heck, even just in an office using like Excel, anywhere where you get input from users, especially if there's a free type text field, you're going to get crazy stuff. So even though I purposely made this example kind of weird, it's by far not the worst thing I've seen in real life in the industry. So what do we have? We have a phone number, okay? We'll pretend this is a phone number, and as you can tell, it's 8675309. So we're calling Jenny. We're going to give Jenny a call, and she's living in the magical movie area code of 555. But when someone put this in, they gave it, you know, brackets around the area code, and they separated the rest with underscores, and I don't know what world, you know, that person's living in, but we don't want to do that here at this business. So you can see our first example here. We say that we want to replace the underscores with hyphens. And just real quick, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, and I'm going to give you guys a frame of reference at the top, right? Let's just say that we want to select that. Okay, so here's our original weird phone number we got from the user. Here we have replaced the underscores with hyphens. Looks a little cleaner. But you know, the boss come along and says, hey man, we really need to replace the brackets too with parentheses. So we could do the same thing. We can have this and turn that into this, and same thing on the next one, right? Let's just replace the right bracket with a right parenthesis. So now you can see in all of these, we did exactly what we planned. This one replaced the underscores with hyphens. This one replaced the left bracket with a left parenthesis, and the bottom one replaced the right bracket with a right parenthesis. So we got it done, but they're all separate. So of course that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't help us. So how can you replace all of them at the same time? Well, here's the beauty of the replace function, or even the beauty of just T-SQL functions in general, but also in this case, the bane of our existence, but we'll get there. So I'm going to jump over to this right side instead here. And so I can leave these examples up on the left while we do this. So what you have to do to avoid this problem, or I should say overcome this problem, is you need to nest your replace functions. So step one, let's just start at the beginning on the left, right? This is going to replace the left bracket with the left parenthesis. which will return a string that looks like this. Same thing you see down here or over on the left. So step 2, what we need to do is we need to take this first replace statement and nest it inside of another replace statement. So that's what this looks like. So you can see this replace statement up here, right, is the exact same thing you see here. But then that has an outer replace around it that then says, okay, in this string that we get back from the first replace statement, replace the right bracket in that one with the right parenthesis, and that will return this. In fact, let's just run it. So here we go. The very first string, or I should say the first replace example, replaces just that bracket with parenthesis. The second one with the nested, now you can see both brackets have been replaced with parentheses. You can see where we're going here. Step 3, we will do the exact same thing. We've got a third nesting. So the very outer replace starts right here, and we say, okay, out of the string we got from the first 2 replaces, let's replace the underscores with hyphens. And we run that, and boom, we have our final form of our phone number. Still probably not what I would want in my database, but we're using an example. Now, 2 things I want to point out that you can do with the replace function. I'm going to go back over here and hijack this example because it'll be the best one to show what I'm talking about. First is that you can replace a character with a space. So let's just say I'm going to replace the underscores with spaces instead. And let's just run that by itself. Boom. Look, the underscores are gone and there are spaces in their stead. And very similarly, you can replace a character or a string, a substring, with nothing, right? Let's just get rid of that completely. You can see just 2 quotes right beside each other, nothing in between. Run that, and boom. All the spaces, all the underscores, they're both gone. It's just all smushed together. Very, very helpful, actually, when you want to get rid of certain strings or certain characters. Now, what can replace not do? What are some of the pitfalls? Like a lot of things in SQL Server, it doesn't support some kind of complex regular expressions or matching. Of course, there are pattern matching and string matching functions in SQL Server, but they're not as robust as like programming in C# and things like that. Can you get it done? Yes, there are lots of workarounds. There's some very complex nested things you can do, but most people try to avoid doing them in SQL Server, and instead you do it in some kind of outside application. Second, it is case sensitive if your database or collation is set to case sensitive. That subject is out of the scope of this video, but just be aware, if I were to go back to my original example, replace, oh my God, I can't type. If I were to go back to this original example of I am bad and replacing bad with good, you can take this and capitalize it. And if I run that, you can still see it still works. It still replaced bad with good. If your collation was set to be case sensitive, this would not work. So if you run that in yours and it doesn't do it, yours is case sensitive. One other pitfall people might run into is, accidentally at least, is that this will replace all instances of that string. So let's pretend I had the word bad in here twice, capital or not. Run it. Look, I am good. It's going to replace every instance of the word or substring that you want to replace with the replacement. So if you only want to get rid of one instance of something in a string, you're going to need to work around that by, putting spaces around it or whatever you can do to make that entry unique. And if you can't make it unique, this alone is not going to work for you. All right, the last thing, or I should say the last pitfall I want to mention is that you can't swap 2 things super easily with replace. And what do I mean by that? Let me paste in an example here on the right side. So you can see, let's pretend you get a value in some kind of like dollars, right? This is a decent example. This is supposed to say $34,000.50. Now, there may be some countries or some currencies where the dot and the comma in these 2 places make sense, but here in the US, that's not how we would write it. Here in the US, we would write it with a comma here for thousands and a period here for cents. So let's pretend someone did this and we want to swap those, right? So you would say, okay, I want to replace the commas with periods and the periods with commas. Let's just run this top example and see what happens. Uh-oh, we've got commas in both places. what is that? Is that 3,400,000 something? Or is that 34 million? What's happening here? Did we lose a digit? So what did happen here? Well, you can see that when we replace the first comma with the period, the string that will then be there after the first replace is this, right? It's now replaced the comma with a period. So there's nothing but commas there now. And then in the second instance, or the second replace, now we're saying, okay, replace periods with commas. Now the whole thing is just commas. So if you want to swap two characters like that with replace, you've got to use an intermediary character. So see down here in this example, if I run it, it works. And what we had to do in the middle is first we replaced commas with like the @ character, something that is not in there in the first place, something that you just use as a throwaway character. Then we replaced the periods with the commas, and then we go back and replace the @ character with the period. Now, I know some of you are probably going cross-eyed and getting confused. That's normal. That's normal. Some of these examples, they take a minute to wrap your head around. So look at them, watch the video again if you need to, play around on your own. That's the only way you're really going to learn, is to play around on your own with examples like this. Now, some of these pitfalls and some of the negative things about replace can actually be avoided by using a different function called translate. And you can learn about that right here in this video. Hey, if you guys like this video or it helps you out at all, please hit the like button. That really helps me out. If you have any suggestions or questions, leave them in the comments below. If you got nothing, just leave some kind of emoji or something, man. Help me out with that engagement. And if you want to see more videos, hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.